Hello everyone, my name is Kamila Aboukinane. I am a psychologist and I work as an ABA therapist. I graduated from University of Gdańsk in Poland, where I study psychology. And I also graduated from the Medical University of Gdańsk, where I study clinical psychology. I practice in France since 2013. When I moved here, my goal was to practice in French, but meanwhile, I met some great English-speaking professionals who encouraged me to join the sprint, and this is how I'm here. I work with some great children. I have great opportunity to work with great families, great children, and all amazing schools, teachers, and other professionals since 10 years. Not that long, not that short. And now with the sprint, we were working on a great project, which will be about training AVS. And the part of our project is my presentation, actually 2 presentations. First of them, and the most important one, is challenging behavior. I believe that a few months ago, someone else already have a similar presentation about the managing the behavior. So I try to don't repeat that much, but maybe some of the slides will be similar. But I believe challenging behavior, this is like very important topic. So let's go for it. So today we're going to talk about challenging behavior. And I would like to start with the definition. Challenging behavior is how we talk about a range of behaviors which some children might display to get needs met. Challenging behaviors are those that hurt or damage self, other, or things, and the environment around. Here we have some examples of the challenging behaviors. Challenging behavior can be inattention, aggression, self-stimulation, sensory issues, rigidities, on non-compliance. The first one, inattention, is when the children, for example, in the circle time, they are not paying attention to what the teachers are speaking. Inattention is when the children during the session are not listening to the speech therapist or other therapists. Inattention can be when they are not following the instruction. Then all the aggression behavior is aggression and also self-aggression. Aggression is hitting the others, is throwing the objects on the other people. It can be also self-aggression, which can be, for example, hitting the wall with the head. Self-aggression can be also scratching own body. Then the next one from the challenging behaviors can be all the self-stimulation behavior. And self-stimulation behavior, we can call them also stimming. And these are all repetitive and unusual body movements. Then the next one are sensory issues. And sensory issues can be, for example, spinning around, jumping in the classroom, or jumping on the sofa at home. But can be also crashing into things, into door, into other toys, or into other people. It can be also hand flapping, or making some other repetitive movements with the fingers, with the head, with the mouth, with the eyes. Then rigidities it's been not flexible. It's a lack of cognitive flexibility, and these are also problems correlated to trouble with problem solving. This is also about not being able to adapt to the thoughts and ideas of other people. And the last group of challenging behaviors are behaviors which are not compliance. What does it mean? It means when the children are not following the instructions, they are not answering. And here we have some more behaviors, like temper tantrums, running, crying, whining, biting, spitting, scratching, loud vocalization, throwing objects, self-injurious activities, hitting, and other disruptive or distracting behaviors. These behaviors do not only add stress to our life, they also obstruct children's learning. It's critical to deal with these issues to maximize learning opportunities and teach students how to learn effectively. Why? Why the behaviors should always come first? Because it's super difficult to teach someone how to write, how to read, how to tell a story, if first we are not able to manage someone's behaviors. If we want to start a session as a psychologist, as a speech therapist, as an occupational therapist, or even as a teacher, we cannot teach anything if we have the behaviors which are disruptive. So always at the beginning we should deal the behavior. If we deal the behavior, then we can put all our attention on other programs. Behaviors are forms of communication, and this is often what we are forgetting about. When we observe the challenging behaviors, we need to know that these are forms of communication. What they communicate? Of course, unmet needs. Children communicate, they try to reach out, they try to connect with us. All these behaviors, they are trying to connect to us. What we do not see. There is always a reason behind the challenging behaviors. Always, always. And here, what we do not see. Problem behaviors may be triggered for a variety of reasons. Here, what we see. Aggressive behavior, fighting, kicking, hitting. It can be screaming, throwing, biting, also crying, whining, laying down on the floor, talking loudly in the classroom. But we just see that, and all the things behind this, it might be, I need a break, I need love, I want a toy, I'm tired, you aren't understanding me, or I'm not bad, I'm communicating, or I'm hungry. So the fact that the child is throwing a pencil on you, it doesn't mean that he wants to hurt you. Maybe he is hungry. The fact that he's screaming or whining in the classroom doesn't mean that he wants to disrupt the others. Maybe he is in pain. The most important thing you can do to help reduce the frequency and intensity of these behaviors is to identify the cause. We need to know why are they behaving this way and what they're trying to communicate to us. How we can know. There are some useful tools like ABC chart. An ABC chart is an observational tool that allows us to record information about a particular behavior. The aim of using an ABA chart is to better understand what the behavior is communicating. And here we're gonna see from closer some examples. Here is the chart. Observed by, we always put our name. We should always put the day, time, and the place where the behaviors were observed. It can be the playground, it can be a library, it can be individual session, pull-out session, it can be classroom. Then the next one is the action. School bell rang for the end of the lunchtime. Here we have the behavior, what's happened. For example, child spat a peer. And here we have the consequences. Given timeout, attentions from peers and the teachers. Evaluation. Further observations needed, however, appears that the child is having difficulties with the school bell signaling the end of the playtime. What does it mean? Did the child want to hit another child? Not really. He was reaching out. He was trying to communicate that there is something. But what? The plan is warn before the bell goes, warn the child before the bell goes at the end of the break, provoking visual support to break this down. Then you can also try ear defenders and then provide visual support to show that what will happen after break. So what is happening here? The school bell rang. The child is attacking, is hitting the peers. Does it mean that he wanted to hurt his friend? Not really. Okay, the problem is the bell ringing. What does it mean? Maybe the child is too sensitive for the ring bell and he is overwhelmed with the signal. So then we can propose ear defenders, okay? Maybe the child hit his friend because he's afraid, he doesn't know what's gonna happen next, what they're going to do in the classroom before the break. So to avoid it, for example, before the break will finish, we can inform the child that the ring bell is gonna ring soon, and then we're gonna move to the classroom or we're gonna move for the next activity. And here I wanted to come back to ABC model. ABC model is, the main part is of course behavior. Here, the blue one is what's happening before the behavior, and C is what's happening after behavior appear, how we environment react. A is a stimulus that comes before an unsafe behavior. Then we have the behavior, anything that we can see an individual do or say. It means screaming, crying, laying down on the floor, all the behaviors. And here we have the consequence, any event that occurs after a specific behavior. This is how we react if we're gonna give the timeout, if we're gonna ignore the behavior, if we're gonna ask the child to say sorry, if we're gonna do nothing. And here the first one, a stimulus that comes before an unsafe behavior. This is all about what is happening before, the situation, where the behavior happened, who was around, maybe what time of the day it was. And here more about ABC. The A refers to the incident or the event that occurred before the behavior was exhibited. This can include what the person was doing, who was there, And what signs, sound, smells, temperatures, number of people in the environment. B refers to an objective and accurate description of the behavior. For example, a child threw an item on the floor. And C refers to what occurred after the behavior or the consequence of the behavior. For example, children move away from his friend, noise level in the room decreased. Here we already discussed. We have 4 functions on behavior. Once the behavior is described and the data is collected, it's time to analyze the information you have collected and determine the purpose, or we call it a function of the behavior. In ABA, we have 4 basic functions of the behaviors. This function of the behaviors, in a simple language, we can say these are the reasons. The reasons a student might perform an action, which means the behavior. These include tangible reinforcement, escape and avoidance, attention, and the fourth one, the last one, sensory reinforcement. And here is little joke, everybody eats. The 4 common functions of the behavior: escape, attention, tangible, sensory. The first one, tangible reinforcement. When seeking tangible reinforcement, a student receives something when he or she engaged in a certain behavior. And here a little example. When Susan whines and cries in the grocery store, her mother gives her a cookie to get her to stop her crying. Susan engaged in the behavior to get a cookie. Tangible reinforcement are when the children perform so challenging behaviors to get something. For example, a child make a lot of mess around while eating, and the parents, to make him stop, they will offer a cell phone with some YouTube, okay? So the parents are reinforcing the challenging behavior, and probably the child is gonna make mess each time while eating, only to eat nicely with the phone. Then the second one, escape and avoidance. When using the escape and avoidance function, a student wants to get out of a situation. For example, Jeffrey throws a tantrum in science lab and the science teacher sent him back to homeroom class. Jeffrey's behavior helps him escape from the science lab. This is what often happens at school. For example, a child is not listening during the circle time or during the story. So what the teachers do, they ask the child to leave the circle and wait outside. And the child kind of again got what he wanted. He is not interested in the story, or he's not interested participating in the circle time. He talked loudly and the teacher asked him to leave. But what we supposed to do, we are supposed to leave the child in the circle, in the classroom, and continue encourage him to participate. The third function of the behavior is attention. In relation to this behavioral function, a student gets attention for engaging in a certain behavior. For example, Lisa refuses to cooperate during circle time, requiring the teacher to repeatedly talk to her about her behavior. The other students stare at her and giggle at her inappropriate actions. Lisa refuses to cooperate to get attention from her teacher and peers. Then the fourth one, sensory reinforcement. Sometimes students receive some sort of sensory reinforcement from their behaviors. For example, who is constantly putting pencil, toys, books, and clothing in his mouth? Keaton wants the sensory input in his mouth. Keaton's behavior has a sensory cause. Here it's kind of the same. We also have function of the behaviors, but what is important here, that sometimes one behavior can have more than only one function. As we can see, sometimes the behavior can have even all of them, 4 of the functions. So it's really difficult to understand sometimes what's and why is happening. And that's why it's very important to always take very detailed notes. So after we can analyze everything. When our ABC chart is already filled, when we have all needed notes, we can think about the behavioral intervention plan. Once we know what benefit a student receives from a behavior, we can develop a plan of response that matches the behavior function. A behavioral intervention plan is a written plan to help a child having repeated behavior problems. The goal is to teach and reward good behavior and prevent or stop negative behaviors. A behavioral intervention plan includes strategies based on the function of the child's problem behavior. The behavioral intervention plan also provides strategies on how to reward the child from the behavior we want. Behavioral intervention plan should always have SMART goals. These goals means they need to be specific, they need to be measurable, they need to be attainable, realistic, and time frames. For me, the most important here will be specific. When we are preparing a behavioral intervention plan, we need to mention exactly on which behavior we are planning to work and which tools, which solutions we want to propose. Then measurable is also very important because we need to know how much the behavior is changing and how fast. And of course, realistic. Realistic is to always put attention on 1, 2, maximum 3 behaviors. We cannot work at the same time on more than 2, 3 challenging behaviors. So our plan needs to be realistic. How do we know if the behavioral intervention plan is working? We should always track the child's progress daily and reviewing the data monthly. What does it mean? Every single day we are supposed, even if it's super difficult and it's time taking, we are always supposed to make very exactly notes what's happened, where the behavior happened, who was around, what's happened before the behavior, and how we reacted after. When we have like beautiful data, we can analyze everything so much easier. And then maybe after 1, 2 weeks, we can start reviewing all the data. What to do if the behavioral intervention plan isn't working? If your child's plan isn't working, then it's time to reassess. Why? There are several reasons why the behavioral intervention plan might not work. There are 2 main reasons. The functions of the behavior are wrong. As we discussed before, every behavior can have more than only one function. So maybe the function we thought about first was not correct one. So we need to prepare the intervention for the other function. or maybe something has changed. The behavior could change, the function of the behavior also could change, or the rewards might not longer motivate the child. The behavioral intervention plan is very much a working document. It's not static. It's not something that we create at the beginning of the school year, and we don't work on this for the next for all the term. This is something absolutely not static. We are supposed to review all the ideas all the time. The behavioral intervention plan, what if the goals have been achieved? As I mentioned before, we should always concentrate only on 1 to maximum 3 targets, because the behavioral intervention plan only targets a few behaviors at once. A child should experience some success in a short time. BEEPs typically aim for regular success between 80 and 90% of the time. We can never put 100% because it's just unrealistic. Once a behavior no longer impacts their learning, it's time to target another behavior. Then, when all the behaviors have been addressed and a child is behaving appropriately, then they no longer need the plan. And here we have some very important tips. Do not take the insult personally. What does it mean? It means if the child is hitting you, if the child is pushing you, if the child is spitting straight to your face, please never take it personally. Like I said before, the children, they try to communicate, they try to reach us out by these behaviors, challenging behaviors. This is the way the children communicate. Never ever take it personally. They don't want to attack you because they don't like you, because they don't like spending time with you. They just communicate. Never take it personally. They don't want to attack you. Then the second tip is be positive and strong and open in the face of some stressful and challenging moments. What does it mean? It's always you who need to be calm, even if the worst things are happening around you. The chairs are flying, the pencils are flying. You should be always strong. You should be always calm. Then the third tip is no shallow judgment, no labels or simple statements. Children, they don't behave bad because they want to. We should never say shallow judgment like the child doesn't work because he is lazy. He doesn't put attention because he is lazy. He cannot do something because he is lazy. Or labels like, oh, he is so manipulative. He exactly knows what does he want and how to get it. We should never use all these simple statements because they're really, really harmful. And we should always remember that all the challenging behaviors, this is not something to be judged. All the challenging behavior, this is something that should be solved. The second presentation is a short and has some good tips. This is the part of the presentation for the AVS training. The title is Top Tips to Maximize Learning Support. And I believe all the tips here can be used not only by professionals who provide like individual sessions, but or shadows, but also for the teachers and for everyone who ever entered the classroom to work with the children there. Classroom routines. So no matter if we are psychologists, no matter if we are shadows, if we are speech therapists, occupational therapists, or any other professional, we should always prepare a plan for students. We cannot just go and work with the child without preparing the goals. Then, when we support a child, we should always take the initiative as appropriate. Sometimes when we enter the classroom, we have some great ideas, but I can observe that we are sometimes like blocked with our ideas. We are not ready, we are shy to go and share our ideas with the teachers or other people working in the classroom. So we should always be courageous and take the initiative. Then when we are working in the classroom, we should always remember to collect data as requested. So after we can analyze all the behaviors, and not only behaviors, but also all the other goals. We should always remember to provide positive reinforcement to the students following classroom routines appropriately. We are often concentrated only if something bad is happening. We are often forgetting to reinforce when the child is already working nicely, when the child is sitting nicely, when the child wave hello nicely. Usually we have a tendency to stop the child or to try to communicate or to make any comments when the children already behave in a not appropriate way. What is missing is a positive reinforcement. When the children behave nicely, please don't forget about the positive reinforcement. When they're lining up correctly, tell them good job lining up. When they're cleaning up after the lunch or after playing, please tell them always good job cleaning, good job preparing for the lunch. We are not supposed to make only comments when the challenging behaviors they already appear. Then providing support to students. When we work with the children, make sure you sit behind students to provide the assistance. That's why we call ourselves sometimes shadow. No matter if you're a psychologist, ABA therapist, or a shadow, when we are joining the classroom, we should always try to sit behind the child because we support them. We are not their teachers. Then move in and out of activities as help is needed. Don't be stuck to a student. Don't be stuck to a child every time. Try to make some distance. Try to step back to give the child some freedom, some independence. Do not over support. Sometimes when we support children, we don't give them enough space. We want them to ask for help, but we are not create these opportunities. Make this pause, stop talking, give some space for the child to ask for help. Then provide behavior support as needed. Reinforcement, visual support, assistance with writing. And then support and be friendly to students with and without special needs. Providing support to students. Faith support as appropriate. Provide more visual prompts than verbal prompts. Reduce prompts as tasks get easier. Then allow and encourage students to perform skills independently. Promote self-help skills. These are eating, using the bathroom, asking the teacher to leave the classroom, asking his peers to borrow the glue, to borrow the scissors. Always try to give the child lots of choices and ask opinions. So they will feel important. They will feel that they can influence what's happening. They can feel that they can also make a choice. Are we gonna work today on math, or we are gonna work on reading skills? Which color of the pen you wanna use right now? Then give the child responsibilities. It can be just small responsibilities, like please, can you go and get me the blue pen, or please can you put it something in the bin, or for example, please can you go and ask the teacher where is another teacher. Then always offer breaks and teach calming down strategies. Then the next one part is facilitates interaction with peers and adults. And there are 3 main tips here. Direct peers to communicate directly to target students. Sometimes what is happening, children are coming and asking psychologists or occupational therapists or learning assistants instead of asking the child. Sometimes other children are coming and asking, what does he have for lunch today? Or is he going with us to the park? So what we are supposed to always do, we need to tell the children, please ask him directly. Don't ask me, I'm not him. Then coach successful interactions between the student and peers. So for example, I can start with having a little chat with the peers, and then I can ask the child I work with to repeat it, just to be a model, a role model. I can start first, and then it's gonna be easier for him to copy after me. Facilitate student interaction with teacher. Each time when the children asking us for something when we are in the classroom, we are rather supposed to tell him, please, and go ask your teacher. So for example, when the student wants to leave the classroom to go to the toilet and asking me, I always say, please go and ask your teacher. If the child didn't understand the instruction and asking me what to do, I always direct them, please go and ask your teacher. Then the next part is about the communication. Use age-appropriate language. Sometimes we use baby voice or we use the vocabulary for little children when we work with the teenagers. And we should remember that it's very important to introduce the right materials, the right stories, the right books, the right jokes. All of them, they should be appropriate to the age. Then use a positive tone of voice. Like children, they are not supposed to work because they are afraid of us. Okay, we don't want to scare them or with our voice, or like show them that they are supposed to respect us. Children, they are supposed to work and to have the results to please us, never to be afraid of us. We are always their friends. Use appropriate sentence or direction length. We try to avoid speaking too much, too long. The directions, the instructions always should be as short as possible and as clear as possible. Being in the classroom, we should try to whisper, so to don't disturb the other students, but also to don't give the feeling for the child that that we over support him and that everyone others see that we are here only for him. Then more showing than telling. For example, when the teacher read the story, instead of telling the child, hey, listen what the teacher is speaking, we can just use our index finger and point to the story to ask him to put the attention what is happening in the classroom. And then the sixth one, very, very important one, do not discuss student when student is present. What is often happening, the teachers or the professionals, they are discussing what's happened or all the challenging behaviors in front of the child. And even if we think that the child is not listening, is not paying attention or not understanding what we are talking about, it's not true. They understand, they are here, they listen. We never discuss all the challenging behaviors next to the student. Okay, and that's all.